Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, our praises, honor, and the glory shall go to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah Kodash, Barakatham. Double honor shall go to apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone who continue to teach and to rule well. Shalom to the Akims, the Great Millstone, the like-minded camps, and individuals who continue to teach as one body, who continue to be out on the highways and byways, risking their lives for the greater good. Shalom to sincere Aquads, who are continuously learning in silence, as the Holy Scriptures have commanded for you to do so. And also shalom to the true believers and subscribers of this true gospel, for this should be considered a true blessing from the higher power. This is Azariah Gabar, representing the King is Coming channel, back at it with another lesson for edification purposes. All right, Jake, so let's say that you've been following up on what's going on with the Middle East, but not to the fullest extent. All right? Well, guess what? This video lesson is for you. All right? So, another installation of the third woe, Abaratazah, will be played today. So the title for my lesson will be It's About to Go Nuclear. Okay? It's about to go nuclear very soon. And as you can imagine, this is biblical prophecy that's being brought forth in these last end times. But a whole lot of you jakes out there, y'all don't want this to happen. Y'all don't want Babylon to be destroyed. Y'all want to keep this wicked kingdom going. So you guys out there are definitely not the men of the elect, the lady of the elect. All right? And not even the children of the elect, if you want Babylon to continue to go on. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I myself, it's opposite. I want this to go down. I want this kingdom to be ushered out, according to the book of 2nd Esdras 6 and 9. For Esau is the end of this world, and Jacob is the world that followeth. Okay? I want that Jacob world to be ushered in, all right? So you got this title here on the video you see. Iran claims 220 U.S. soldiers killed in 24 hours. And like I said before, and I'll say it again, I am more susceptible to believing what they say than what the Western media will say. All right? U.S. deploys nuclear command plane. All right? So this plane, its only function is to stake out where they may strike the best targets, where they may strike their nuclear weapons. That's the only thing that they're supposed to do, or, this plane is supposed to do, all right? So I'm going to play this video's entirety. It's about 14 minutes long. Then I'm going to get into some very powerful precepts, as you can imagine, and then we'll close it out for today. So let's go.
220 American soldiers dead in 24 hours. That's Iran's official military claim, stated publicly on record by Iran's armed forces spokesperson. Not a rumor, not a leaked document, not an anonymous source. An official declaration that in a single day of coordinated strikes across Bahrain and multiple Gulf installations, 220 American military personnel were killed. America's official response? 8, maybe 10. One of those numbers is a lie.
Yeah, right.
Footage tells you which one. When a missile strike completely destroys a military base, when the before and after satellite images show a functioning installation reduced to a crater, and the government claims single-digit casualties, you have
Yep.
two options.
Yeah,
Either
right.
the base was empty, which means it served no military purpose and cost billions of dollars for no reason, or the casualties are being hidden from the American public in numbers that, if revealed, would end this war overnight. The soldiers on those bases know the truth. The medics treating the wounded know the truth. The chaplains holding the hands of the dying know the truth. And piece by piece, through leaks and satellite imagery and the testimony of people who were there, the truth is going to surface. The way it always does when governments fight wars they can't win and can't honestly explain. But here's what makes
So the truth shall set you free. Okay? So let's continue.
this specific moment different from every previous development in this conflict, and why the next 72 hours may be the most dangerous window in the entire crisis. America just quietly flew its E-6B Mercury Nuclear Command aircraft into the Gulf. If you've never heard of the E-6B Mercury, that's by design. It doesn't carry conventional bombs. It doesn't carry troops. It carries something far more specific and far more terrifying: the command and control infrastructure for America's nuclear arsenal. It's the airborne platform from which the US military would coordinate and authorize nuclear strikes if ground-based command systems were destroyed or compromised. America doesn't fly this aircraft into active conflict zones as a gesture. It doesn't position nuclear command infrastructure over the Gulf as a bluff or a signal. The E-6B Mercury is there because someone in the chain of command made the calculation that conventional options are running out, and the nuclear option needs to be within operational reach. Tucker Carlson.
Simplify your moving experience with the Mayflower Personalized Move Portal. It's how smart movers like you manage the moving experience.
Exactly a voice from the anti-war left, said it directly and publicly: this conflict is heading toward nuclear. China's most prominent military think tank analyst, a man who functions as a public spokesperson for Communist Party strategic thinking, said something that should freeze every person reading this in their seat. He said America has taken more damage in this conflict than at any point since Vietnam. He said the situation is moving toward nuclear escalation, and he said it needs to stop immediately. When China's military establishment is publicly urging de-escalation and warning about nuclear drift, the alarm bells should be deafening. China does not make those statements lightly. China does not expose its strategic assessments publicly unless the situation is severe enough that silence becomes its own form of complicity. The situation is that severe. Iran's strategy, and this is now visible in full detail for anyone willing to look, has been executing a doctrine military theorists call death by 1,000 cuts. Don't deliver a single catastrophic blow that galvanizes the enemy and unites domestic opinion behind the war effort. Instead, constant pressure, continuous attrition, relentless degradation of resources, personnel, equipment, and will. Make every day more expensive than the last. Make every week's losses harder to absorb than the week before. Until the enemy's capacity to fight, not just its will, but its literal physical capacity, is exhausted. In 24 hours, Iran hit American installations across Bahrain and the broader Gulf in what its military is calling its most destructive single operational period of the entire conflict. Multiple simultaneous strikes, coordinated across theater. Maximum damage to a maximum number of installations in minimum time. And America's nuclear command aircraft is now circling overhead. Dubai Marina was hit today. Qatar's international airport has told all passengers, do not come. The Strait of Hormuz, which was already near empty of commercial traffic, has gone quieter still. And Trump, facing the worst military situation America has faced since Vietnam, according to China's own strategic analysts, is reportedly planning to send 5,000 ground troops into Iran. 5,000 soldiers into a country of 90 million people. A country that defeated the...
All right, let's stop right there. So he says 5,000, but bruh, it's going to be probably up most towards 100,000 troops. All right. And this is where the military draft is going to come in. In the previous lesson, I showed you that image of Congress passing the military draft. And you best to believe that I would love nothing more to see a lot of these fucking, excuse my language, YNs or these young niggas, these gangbangers be sent over there. I would love nothing more to see that happen. You heard? Let's continue.
Soviet Union's proxy in the 1980s. survived 40 years of crippling sanctions, and just killed, by its own count, 220 American soldiers in a single day. America couldn't hold Afghanistan with 100,000 troops for 20 years. The plan is 5,000 in Iran. The nuclear command plane is already in the air. Let's talk about what China just said, because Beijing doesn't speak carelessly, and what it said this week is the clearest external assessment of where this conflict actually stands. China's military think tank analyst, whose role is to publicly articulate positions that the Communist Party wants in the international discourse without official government fingerprints, made 3 statements. First, America has suffered more military damage in this conflict than at any point since Vietnam. Second, the trajectory is toward nuclear escalation. Third, it must stop immediately. Parse those statements carefully. More damage than since Vietnam is not a poetic exaggeration. It's a specific military assessment with specific content. Vietnam cost America 58,000 dead over 20 years. The suggestion isn't that this conflict's casualties have reached that number. It's that the rate of damage, the degradation of military infrastructure, the destruction of defense systems, and the strategic humiliation of American power projection is occurring at a pace and completeness that has no modern parallel. Half of America's regional Patriot systems destroyed. THAAD radar in Jordan eliminated. 25 to 30% of early warning infrastructure offline. 3 aircraft carriers now deployed into a theater where Iran has demonstrated it can force carrier retreats. Interceptor stockpiles depleted to levels that will take years to replenish. And now, Iran's military claiming 220 American dead in 24 hours. A number America is officially disputing with figures that the physical evidence of the strikes makes mathematically incoherent.
Yep.
That's the damage profile China is describing as worse than Vietnam. And China has access to intelligence assessments that go well beyond what's publicly visible. The nuclear command aircraft is the American response to that damage profile. Not a tactical response, a strategic one. The E-6B Mercury in the Gulf isn't there to bomb anything. It's there to ensure that if Iran's strikes destroy American ground-based command infrastructure at a critical moment, the nuclear chain of command survives. It's continuity of government and continuity of nuclear command, airborne and survivable. Countries don't position nuclear command continuity aircraft over active conflict zones as a negotiating tactic. They do it when they're seriously considering options that require nuclear command continuity to be guaranteed. Tucker Carlson's warning and China's warning are saying the same thing from different directions. The conventional war is being lost, the nuclear option is being moved closer to the table, and the window to prevent catastrophic escalation is closing. Now, let's talk about Iran's response to the ground troop plan, because Tehran's reaction to Trump's 5,000 soldier announcement was neither fear nor diplomatic caution. It was an invitation. Iran's military commander said explicitly, "Bring your soldiers. We have been preparing for this for decades. We watched what happened."
Hell yeah. Those Persians, they were saying, yo, bring it. You know, like that wrestler, The Rock, when he was wrestling, and his antics, part of his antics in the ring was, bring it. And he'll motion his hand. So that's what Iran is doing. They tell Babylon, just bring it. Y'all heard? Let's continue. Let the weak say I'm strong.
In Iraq, we watched what happened in Afghanistan. We have built our defense doctrine, our tunnel networks, our decentralized command structures, and our popular mobilization capacity, specifically around the scenario of American ground forces attempting to operate on Iranian soil. Come, this isn't bravado. This is a country that absorbed an 8-year war with Iraq, a war in which Iraq used chemical weapons supplied by Western governments, and emerged with its territorial integrity intact, and its military culture forged into something that has sustained 40 subsequent years of external pressure without breaking.
I saw someone holding this board, so I checked out the site and it changed everything for me.
Triple
I don't
lending
care.
helps people just like me find real.
Afghanistan resisted American occupation with a fraction of Iran's population, a fraction of its organizational sophistication, a fraction of its industrial capacity, and a fraction of its missile technology. It took 20 years, and ultimately ended with America's most visible military retreat since Saigon. Iran is not Afghanistan. Iran is 4 times more populous, far more industrially developed, vastly better armed, and has been preparing specifically for American ground force entry since the day the Iraq War demonstrated what American ground campaigns look like when the political will to sustain them runs out. 5,000 soldiers into that scenario doesn't achieve military objectives. It creates hostages. Meanwhile, the Gulf states are not quietly watching. They're breaking. Quietly, carefully, with the diplomatic language of countries that cannot afford to publicly humiliate their departing superpower patron before they've arranged the alternative security architecture. But breaking, nonetheless. The Gulf states are telling American officials privately what they cannot say publicly. This war was imposed on us. Our soil is being used to launch strikes we didn't authorize on our behalf. Our infrastructure is being targeted in retaliation. Our populations are in emergency lockdown. Our economies, built over 50 years of deliberate effort, are being dismantled in weeks. And we need you to leave before there is nothing left to protect. Doha had its international airport shut to passengers. Dubai Marina was struck. Abu Dhabi is on alert. The cities that ran global tourism campaigns about being the world's safest destinations, the cities that genuinely were, by measurable metric, among the safest on Earth, are processing missile strikes and emergency government alerts. The Gulf Empire that took 50 years to build is being dismantled in real time. And the entity responsible for its dismantlement, or the one that brought the war, that launched the strikes, that made the Gulf the target, is the same entity that was supposed to be its guarantor. The bill for that betrayal is now due. The CIA and Mossad told Trump a specific story before this war started. Kill the supreme leader. The Iranian population, exhausted by sanctions, frustrated with the government, hungry for change, will pour into the streets. The regime will fracture. The military command structure will collapse in the chaos. American and Israeli assets will move in to support pro-Western Iranian opposition figures. The Kurds will mobilize from the north. The whole thing unravels in weeks, and America walks out with a compliant Iranian government and access to Iranian oil and gas. That was the plan. That was the intelligence assessment delivered with confidence by agencies whose multi-billion-dollar annual budgets are supposed to produce accurate predictions about human behavior and political systems. Every single element of that assessment was wrong. The Iranian population did not take to the streets to welcome American liberation. It went to work. Markets stayed open. Daily life continued. The social collapse that the entire strategy depended on producing did not happen, because 45 years of being told American power was coming for them had produced not a population waiting to be saved, but a population that had made its peace with exactly this scenario and decided to outlast it. The military command did not fracture. It decentralized, which is a completely different thing. 31 command centers, each with their own target packages and standing orders, operating simultaneously without requiring central coordination. You cannot decapitate a Hydra. Iran had built its military command structure specifically to survive decapitation. The Kurds did not mobilize. The Iranian opposition figures America was counting on had no popular base inside the country. And the oil and gas Iran was supposed to hand over is still underground, still Iranian, and now protected by a military that has demonstrated it can destroy American defense systems faster than America can replace them. The intelligence failure here is not a small bureaucratic miscalculation. It is a catastrophic, from the ground up misunderstanding of what Iran is, politically, culturally, militarily, and psychologically. The same agencies that predicted Iraqi weapons of mass destruction with confidence, that predicted the Taliban would not retake Afghanistan for years after American withdrawal and watched them do it in days, have now produced an assessment of Iran so fundamentally wrong that the entire military operation built on it is visibly, publicly, undeniably failing. And the response to that failure is not recalibration. The response is escalation. 5,000 ground troops, nuclear command aircraft, 3 carrier groups in range of hypersonic missiles that have already demonstrated the ability to force carrier retreats. Here's the historical parallel that every serious analyst is now reaching for, because it's the most accurate one available. Vietnam, not in the specific military tactics, not in the geography, but in the fundamental structure of the failure. A war launched on false premises, sustained by institutional momentum and political ego long after the strategic case collapsed, with casualties being managed and minimized in official communications, while the actual human cost mounted in ways that eventually became impossible to suppress. A war that ended not with military victory, but with evacuation. A war that cost 58,000 American lives and reshaped American domestic politics for a generation. China's analyst invoked Vietnam deliberately, not as an insult, as a warning. As the most recent case study in what happens when American military power encounters an adversary that has decided to outlast it rather than defeat it in conventional engagement, Iran has decided to outlast America. It has the missiles, the doctrine, the decentralized command structure, the domestic social cohesion, and the 45-year preparation to do it. America has the world's most expensive military, a nuclear command aircraft now airborne over the Gulf, 90% domestic opposition to the war, interceptor stockpiles that are depleted and won't be replaced until 2033, and a plan to send 5,000 soldiers into a country that just killed, by Iranian count, 220 American soldiers in 24 hours. The math does not favor continuation. And yet, here we are. Because the political cost of stopping, of admitting that the intelligence was wrong, the strategy failed, the war cannot be won, and American military presence needs to leave the Gulf, is being calculated as higher than the human, military, and economic cost of continuing. That calculation is wrong. It has always been wrong in every war where leaders made it. History's verdict on the leaders who made it in Vietnam, in Afghanistan, and now here is consistent and merciless. The Gulf states are asking America to leave. Iran has offered the same ceasefire terms it offered on day one. Remove the bases, stop the war. China is warning publicly that nuclear escalation is approaching. The E-6B Mercury Nuclear Command aircraft is in the air over the Gulf right now. 220 American soldiers, or whatever the real number is behind the official fiction, died in the last 24 hours. And Trump is planning to send 5,000 more. At some point, through elections, through economic collapse, through military reality becoming impossible to manage or deny.
So the math is not mathing. Okay? Because, of course, these Edomites, they're the father of lies. I brought up that scripture in the previous video. All right? With all that damage that Iran has conducted on the U.S. military bases, there's no way in hell it can only be 10 or less. No way. The math is not mathing. All right? So the only way that Babylon and those small hatters and fake-ass Israel is going to put an end to this war is through nuclear retaliation. Otherwise, forget it. Right now, as I speak, so-called Israel is looking a whole lot more like Gaza. All right, that's how bad the damage has been afflicted over there. All right, so let's go to some precepts and then we'll close it out. So we go to Revelation 9:12 and it reads, one woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. All right? So you had another scripture in Revelation that says, the second woe has passed, and the third woe coming quickly. So both of those precepts coincide with one another. Verse 13, and the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before Yahweh. So remember, this is John the Revelator that's speaking on his vision when he was in the island of Patmos at that time. Verse 14, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. All right? Or Euphrates. And where's Euphrates? That's in the Middle East. Okay? That's right there. It's right smack in the Middle East. So you know these precepts are faithful and true. Verse 15, and the four angels were loose, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the third part of men. Okay? Verse 16, and the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000. And I heard the number of them. Woo! So simply put, when it's time for those nukes to be shot from the four corners of the earth onto Babylon the Great, it's going to be 200 million nuclear missiles. All right? Go on your calculator and calculate it for yourself, or just ask AI. It's going to respond by saying 200 million of the army of the horsemen. So these horsemen are not actual horses that you see in the Midwest movies or the Western movies. No. Because like with an automobile, you got what is called horsepower, right? it determines the strength of the engine or the torque, right? For an automobile. So the horsepower would be those ICBM nuclear missiles, okay? So we go to book of 2nd Esdras 16 and 12, and it reads, the earth quaketh, and the foundations thereof. The sea ariseth up with waves from the deep, and the waves of it are troubled. And the fishes thereof also before the Lord and before the glory of his power. Here's the point. For strong is his right hand. So what will his right hand be? All right. That is a parable for those silos, those launch pads for those ICBMs. Because it's not actually a bow and arrow. No. This is far more greater than that. That bended the bow. All right. So that's the bow. Again, that bow is those launch pads of those ICBM nuclear missiles. His arrows, which would be those nuke missiles themselves, that he shooteth are sharp and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. Woo! So this is where we're heading. That's why the title for this lesson is, it's about to go nuclear. All right? So you Jakes out there really better prepare for this. How do you prepare? And I say it over and over again. Repent and to convert back to your true Lord, Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahushai. That's the only way you can make your way out of this. You can't pray your way out of this. And you can't do anything else. You can't relocate to another country. Say, okay, I'll be safe over here. Because way back when, that's what I thought the same thing. All right. I was looking to move to another country years ago when I really didn't understand this gospel like I do now. Okay. And we'll go to book of 2nd Esdras 16 and 33. And this is directly regarding the military draft. And it reads, the virgins shall mourn, having no bridegrooms or no husbands. The women shall mourn, having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers. Woo! All right. So this is definitely relating to this upcoming military draft, where a lot of men, they're going to be drafted against their will, and they're going to be sent over there in combat, boots on the ground, and they're not coming back. They are not coming back. You heard? So that's going to conclude this valuable lesson for today. Abaratazah. Lord willing, hopefully edification is brought forth. And as always, all praises, honor, and the glory shall go to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahushai, Ba'Hashem, Rakah, Kudash, Brakatham, Kwam, Yasharala. And as always, Abaratazah, Lord willing, on to the next video. Shalom.